Joining us now, of course, she's the assistant coach at Iowa, former All-American SEC Player of the Year at LSU during her time, played in the NPF. Speak of Trena Prater, joining us here on In the Circle. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Elo.
Well, let's talk about the fall. This is obviously a unique fall for everybody involved. No different in the softball world. What was it like for you all in Iowa in the fall, which was certainly unique to begin with? Anytime you do a fall in Iowa, let alone this fall.
Yeah, well, we were blessed with awesome weather, which has not been the norm since we've been here. So it's just unfortunate that we weren't able to play any games. But it was great to be outside all the fall. I think we only had two indoor practices all fall, which usually by the middle of October or something, we're inside because of rain or it's like so cold. So we were blessed with good weather despite, a COVID year and only been able to practice and like scrimmage against ourselves.
Tell us a little bit. I mean, this is so unique because obviously because of the extra year of eligibility that the NCAA gave to all the spring athletes that lost their sports, you had some players that came back that you weren't planning on, the seniors like an Allison Ducey, which we'll talk about later. But how has that affected you all from a roster standpoint? Because you've got a bigger roster than you were planning on.
Yeah, it's a blessing for us to get, like you mentioned, Ducey is back and Donnie Ray Mayhew came back. So it's great to, just to have those girls be able to finish their career, hopefully, fingers crossed we get to play in the spring, finish the way that, they wanted to. My heart was broken for them to kind of get things cut short last year. We did have a few people who were had career things set up, so they moved on. And one of our players, Liz DeShield, got married. So, of course, she was ready to move on with the next chapter of her life, too. But, yeah, definitely fortunate to have them back. Bigger roster. We're actually smaller than we were last year. Last year we had 30 girls on the roster, and this year we only have 25. So despite our seniors coming back, we're still a little bit smaller than last year, so we're good.
Do you think that'll help you? The fact that you already had a big roster a year ago, so in a way you're all kind of more prepared to do this than say other schools are dealing with. Because I've had other coaches talk about, oh man, this has been a big adjustment, and they're concerned about chemistry and all that stuff. Well, you kind of went through this a little bit as you all have been trying to rebuild Iowa here since your arrival.
Yeah, definitely. For us, we were concerned too. Like Renee and I never have had a 30 last year, so we're like, oh my Lord, what are we doing? But it was amazing. Like our girls clicked, our girls bonded. Like we brought 14 in last year, a combination of freshmen and JUCO players. And so we were concerned about the divide of, the old and the new. But our girls, like we had a unique group that just loved each other. They fought for each other. They were legit probably like one of the tightest groups that I've coached before. And I think that's why we ended with a 17-5 and we were first in the Big Ten when COVID hit last year. So we're excited. This group of 25 has been, just as close. We have 10 freshmen this year too. So we've enjoyed the fall and, not having the pressure of games, quote unquote, and able to develop them slower and just let them blossom.
You mentioned the great year you were having in 2020 prior to the shutdown, obviously. I remember I watched you all play, I think, your last games of the season in Clearwater.
Mm-hmm.
And you were off to the best start the program has had in decades.
Right.
And this was just your second year for Coach Gillespie and yourself there. How did you turn it around? Because obviously you took over a program that needed some adjusting. They hadn't made the NCAA tournament since 2009. They hadn't had a winning season since 2013. So, and I remember following you all in the first season. That was a big thing about learning how to win and the habits of that. It seemed like everybody was on the same page in that second season. Tell me about that big turnaround jump from year one to year two.
Yeah, it was really about bringing in kids who had championship experience. Like we brought in some kids from DMAC, some juniors, middle infielders, Avery Guy and Mia Ruther, that really helped solidify our infield and got some speed with Voss and other players, right? We kind of changed the dynamic of the game. Last year we were fast, right? It was like a speed game. Didn't have a lot of power hitting, but we had speed, tried to put pressure on the defense, and that's I think why we were so successful. last year. And obviously pitching, it all starts with pitching with Ducey, who's been, the name of Iowa for the last 5 years now. And then we had Lauren Shaw coming back from injuries, who was a dynamic, tag team in the circle. And we had Sarah Lehman, and those are kind of our 1, 2, 3 jab for everybody.
I want to ask you about Allison and Lauren Shaw, because I saw them both up close in Clearwater. As I mentioned, I've seen Ducey for a couple years. Mm-hmm. Shaw was tremendous in the dynamics of a righty-lefty in that pitching staff. I know I've talked to Coach Gillespie about it, which is so unique because she didn't have a lefty that often when she was at UCF. But we'll talk about the weapon and the how Ducey and Shaw really complemented each other.
Yeah, Shaw is just nasty. Like, she's sassy in the circle. Like, she gives our team like a different little heartbeat out there when she's out there, right? She's all down and junk, and her changeup is, one of her go-tos. She keeps the ball down, and then you mix in and you bring in Ducey, who's a majority up, nasty rise, a late jump, mixes a few other things in there too. So just them two together, and they genuinely like have each other's back, and they're, rooting for each other out there. And so I think that's why they were so successful, because we're showing you this and we're showing you this, and then we got the nasty off speeds falling off the table. So it's tough for teams to adjust to that, especially early on when you haven't seen it.
And with Shaw, she had an injury, right? So she missed all of your first year there in 2019 and came back. I mean, looked better than ever. I know Coach Gillespie, when I spoke to her about it, talked about how, that year off, and even talking to Lauren in Clearwater, how that she learned a lot just from watching and things like that, and made her a better pitcher, but still a remarkable story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being in the dugout and then kind of seeing the growth of the team from the previous staff to our first year, and being on the outside and knowing that we supported her in her recovery of her injury. We didn't push her to get back out there soon, so she was able to come back kind of on her own terms. And then once she got back out here, I think she loved the game again from being out for so long. And that just kind of drove her passion. And, she's a firecracker in that circle anyway. So I just love seeing her out there, and I'm happy that she gets to finish her career.
Offensively, I know you were led by some new faces there last season that really sparked your offense a little bit. Talk about so first of all, some of the returners that will lead your offense this upcoming season.
Yeah, Nia Carter came in as a freshman, and I think she batted like 508 as a freshman, and she's like shorter than me. She's like 5'2" or something, and just, product of the Corona Angels, and fearless little kid, really keeps it simple, doesn't overthink the game, and, she's reliable, and she's constant in practice too. So it's not surprising that, she did what she did last season for us. And then Kalena Burns, also another power hitter from California that came in as a freshman and led us in RBIs, and is, going to have a phenomenal career. For her, it's going to be, for both of them actually, it's going to be interesting to see them two grow together. They both came from Corona Angels travel ball, and they kind of compete with each other secretively in there, but proud of, both of them for kind of leading us as freshmen to make an impact in the big statement last season.
Describe their style of hitting, because you're right. I mean, I was impressed. They're just freshmen when they came in, and you would have thought they were veterans already at the D1 level. They were playing at a high level, which really was huge for your offense.
Yeah.
And sparked them. Just what made them so good so quickly?
Sorry, I got these lights that cut off now. Kalena her vision is, both of them is impeccable, right? Her pitch selection, her power, she's aggressive. They don't get rattled by big situations. Nia, like I said, she just keeps it simple. She's kind of like, okay, whatever. All right. She's not a power hitter. She's not going to hit you home runs, though she did hit one off the wall last year. And after that, she kept trying to hit a home run. That's like her dream, to do that. So hopefully she gets that by the time her career is over. But she just really is a gap-to-gap hitter. Not a lot of unnecessary movement in her swing. She's very quiet. And same with Kalena. They just both really keep it simple and understand the game.
Talk about the newcomers you have coming in for this year's team that you hope to help contribute to this team.
Marissa Peak is a catcher who's going to come in and hopefully be an impact kid right away. Another power hitter. She's so strong, um, fearless in that box. She takes her hacks. Like she really swings like she's like that Trina Peel back in the day. I'm going to take my hacks. It's going to be hard. I might swing and miss a lot, but when I hit it, like it's coming at you. So she's been really fun to watch develop and grow and kind of get her freshman jitters out behind the plate. Um, so she's going to be fun. And then Sammy Diaz, man, that kid, she's just a pure athlete. We put her everywhere. She's playing third, short, outfield. She's even been at second base. So again, another tough out. She takes her hacks. She's a product of, Firecracker CJ in California. And I'm just excited to see her out there. We also have Grace Baines, another freshman that is a utility. Came in as a shortstop and is swinging the bat. And we're trying to find a place for her. So she's playing shortstop. We moved her to outfield a little bit. So this year's going to be fun because it's going to be tough to put a lineup together because we have so much depth and so many different options on our lineup. And then Denali Loker is our Iowa homegrown Hawkeye who is going to be the heartbeat of our lineup, I would say. She's dented our scoreboard all throughout the fall. Every BP practice, she's hitting bombs. She's a strong kid, a drop ball pitcher. So she's going to be a huge asset to the pitching staff. Similar to Lauren, but a little bit different though.
It sounds like you're more athletic, and I know that was something that Coach Gillespie wanted to address when she came to Iowa. She told me about, trying to get more athletic with her team and her roster, especially defensively.
Yep.
That's a big part of it. Just talk about that, at the athleticism you have on your roster and how as well defensively behind Shaw and Ducey and the pitching staff, improving in that area.
Yeah, and that's what our job is, obviously, as coaches, is recruit better than what you have. And our biggest thing was to try to recruit some 5-tool athletes, some kids that can play multiple positions defensively. And for me, obviously, I want some kids that can swing it, right? I want some speed and I want power. And we didn't have a ton of power, which, Coach Gillespie coached to that, the short game, like I said, last year. But this year, we got some kids that can swing it. We're going to see a lot more doubles this year, a lot more home runs. So I'm just excited for the new dynamics of, getting young youth that's able to come in, impact players, right? Freshmen always say, am I going to get to play? And we're like, well, if you earn it. And we've had freshmen coming in and earning it. So that's been fun as they've been pushing our upperclassmen too to get better as well.
No question. Do you feel that by, last season you didn't get to play in conference? So whenever you do get to play in conference in 21, a lot of the Big Ten schools didn't get to see your personnel, especially the new faces. Do you think that worked? Is there an advantage there at all that the conference hasn't seen some of the players there? And also, even though you didn't get the full season in 2020, a lot of your players got experience and got that taste of winning. Do you think that's going to help you maybe to 2021? Whereas if you didn't have the 2020 season, you would still be kind of uncertain if you can win games or not.
Yeah, 100%, right? Now they believe. Now they know what it feels like. They know what it looks like to be the top in the conference. They know that we can, right? It's about them believing and experiencing that. And the buy-in is there, right? So they're all competing. They were hungry. They thought, obviously the seniors that were here, they're like, man, we should get a ring anyways, just because, we finished, right? Put an asterisk by our name, Big Ten champs. So we want a ring. So now they're hungry, right, to come back, and like Ariely Bogart, like she wants it. And she's a great leader for us in the infield over at second base. We're excited for the journey this year. Definitely playing a Big Ten only schedule. It's going to be tough, right? Big Ten's one of the top conferences in the country. So our biggest thing is we got to be ready right away. And obviously staying healthy with COVID. Hopefully our pitching staff is what's going to lead us to that. The great thing is we have 6 pitchers this year. So we have the depth for the amount of games. Playing a 4-game season, that was like back in my day, like 1999, we were playing 4-game seasons.
Yeah, a lot of depth, right? I mean, you could be having double headers. I mean, who knows? It's going to be wacky. You're right. Depth is going to be so important. Let's
Yeah.
talk about your staff, the staff here. Obviously,
Okay.
you came with Coach Gillespie from UCF. You spent a season with her at UCF, decided to come with her to UCF. What made you decide to do that? Because you had a lot of options on the table at the time, and you decided to join her at Iowa. What was it about joining her at Iowa that you felt it was the right move for you?
Yeah, well, obviously when she got it, I was like, oh my God, I just left Buffalo to come here to be your assistant. You've been here for 18 years. I never thought you were gonna leave. So I was like, okay, so Iowa. And then she initially asked me, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to Iowa. I don't know anything about Iowa, but there's corn, and that's it. And they're in the Big Ten. But I knew this was like her dream job. If there was a job to leave UCF for, it was this one. So then she's like, just come and see it and check it out for yourself. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And then I came, and just the people, right? They call it Iowa nice. They generally were, and the resources that we have here to be successful, I was just like, why haven't they won here? And that, gave me the drive. I was like, hey, we got everything we need to win here. So I'm on board. So it really was the interview and the people when I came and seeing everything, and then her passion for saying like, hey, we can do it here. We can get to that World Series here like they used to back in the day with Gail Blevins.
Well, that's the thing. The great tradition there, obviously with Coach Blevins, who obviously Coach Gillespie looked up to. I mean, the perennial powerhouse, the
Yep.
fan base, the alumni there is just enormous.
Yes.
Which, to your point, it's like really, it's been not tapped in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was that what jumped out at you as you saw it in person and seeing the campus and seeing the all the things you had that you were going to be able to use that you didn't have at other places?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's coming on the interview, and even our senior women's administrator and deputy AD, Barbara Burke, just having somebody like her in administration that believes in softball. She coached softball before, and then her passion to give Coach Gillespie what she needs and to understand what it takes was, a part of it too. The support, Gary Barta and, what he's said he's going to do for the program and their vision and just how much they support the team here, the fan base, just seeing it. And, it kind of took me back to, my LSU days and like, we can win here, right? We got all the right ingredients. We just got to get that product on the field. So that all had a lot to do with it.
Also on the staff, Rick Dellinger is a legend in the state of Iowa. Great career there. What does it mean have meant having him on the staff and getting to know him and working with him?
Our pitchers absolutely love Coach D. Like he is perfect for them and our personalities that we have on our pitching staff. He's 100% invested in the process and learning new things and growing them and allowing them to be their authentic selves in the bullpen. So obviously, like you said, he's been in Iowa for a long time, I think 40 something years of coaching. And then he was Coach Gillespie's high school coach. That's where the connection started. So the fact that they have that connection and her trust in him, right? Because she was the pitching coach at UCF for all the years and developed all Americans and pitchers going to the NPF. So for her to kind of pass that task over to Coach D, that says a lot about how she respects him and what he's done.
Well, and his knowledge of the state of Iowa from a recruiting standpoint is so important. I know that's something that Coach Gillespie also had on the top of the list to make sure you get talent from the state, something
Yep.
that Iowa hasn't done prior to your arrival there. How important is the talent pool in that state of Iowa to keep them at home there and come to Iowa?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Coach D, our first year, crisscrossed Iowa, every corner you can think of. He was at high school games everywhere, was calling and connecting, and we were emailing. And that was the thing. We want Iowa kids to know we want the best in the state, right? We want to keep our homegrown Hawkeyes here. A lot of times, some of our bigger names have left to even go to other Big Ten schools. But we want them to know that we want you, like Denali Loker, like we love her. She's going to be a huge impact player, probably an All-American here. So, and Coach D has a lot to do with that.
Coach G, you've gotten to know her now. Talk about working with Coach G. Obviously, for those that, what's it been like working with her? What's she been like at Iowa there now that she's back home in her state? As you know, her family lives there, everything there. What's it been like working with Coach G now? You're going on what? This will be your 4th season coming up.
4.
Wow.
Yeah, year 4, right?
You're catching up to me now.
Yeah, no, just we balance each other so much. Like we're polar opposites, but what she likes to do, I don't. What I love to do, she doesn't. And so I think that's why we work so well together. She's a great leader. Obviously, being from Iowa or growing up in Iowa, all of her family is here. I definitely see a different passion in her eye. This was, a dream job for her growing up and wanting to be here and wanting to be a Hawkeye. So she takes a lot of pride in the program. She's done a phenomenal job of trying to get connected with the alumni and get them back supported of the program and get them involved. We've done a lot of things, including the alumni. So working with her, it's a blessing, right? I was a head coach before, so I left being a head coach to come and be her assistant because I like to learn, I like to grow, I like to be around people who've been successful, because I believe that's the only way you get better, is to be around people who know more than you, been more successful than you, and take bits and pieces and make it your own.
Let's talk about you and what got you interested in getting into coaching because you started coaching while you were still playing professionally. Take me through that process of, hey, I want to be a coach. When did you decide that you wanted to be a coach and the whole process and that journey?
Yeah, well, at LSU, I started off as a computer science major because I thought that's what I wanted to do because my mom works in technology and things. And then after freshman year, I was like, let me switch over to kinesiology. So then once I switched over to kinesiology, I did that and I thought I wanted to do PT. And then I started the sports studies emphasis after that. My 5th year, I stayed for a 5th year with Coach Gerard, and she let me student coach me and Steph Hastings. So that kind of got my feet wet. Coach Gerard was the first female coach I ever played for. I always played for men in my life. So she definitely was kind of that female inspiration to say, like, I can do it, right? I love her fire. She took us to the World Series in 2001. So for her to kind of light that little fire and kind of, get my feet wet before I went off to George Washington to coach with a teammate, Shante Freeman there. That's kind of how it all began. And then I took a little break to play in the MPF for a couple of years, and then got back into it.
Let's talk about how you got into playing softball. What got you interested as you were growing up playing softball? Who influenced you? And then obviously eventually ending up at LSU.
Yeah, well, my mom kept me busy. I played basketball, I played softball, I played a sport all the time. She kept me busy. So it's definitely just her and my dad. My dad helped coach a lot of my teams growing up. So that pretty much was my inspiration. She wasn't going to let me just stay home and not do anything. She kept me busy, kept me going, and that's what it was. And then obviously with travel ball, crisscrossing the country, that's where LSU kind of discovered me.
Well, and that was it. And you brought it up earlier, and I think it's fascinating. When you were there, LSU really didn't have the winning tradition that they have now that everybody's aware of. You kind of helped build that, but you were kind of in a unique position because that was during the time where the coaching transition was going on, right? Because you was Glenn Moore your coach there, and he left, and then Coach Gerard came from Louisiana Lafayette to take over the program right around that time. Just taking me through that timeline, what it was like at LSU, because it's totally different than what people might think now that have been following LSU here in the last, say, decade.
Yeah, and what people don't know is LSU, I think, got reinstated, and they got rid of wrestling and brought on softball back in the early 90s. So softball had just came back. Like I went in 1990, the fall of 98. I believe they brought softball back in the fall of 96. So they had a season there. And there was the coach that recruited me actually got let go. Coach Kathy Compton was there, and she recruited me. But Coach Moore did most of the recruiting at the games, so I had a connection with him as the assistant. And then when Coach Compton and Coach Guidry got let go, Coach Moore took over. So I was with Coach Moore for my first 2 years, and then he left and went to Baylor. And then that's when Coach Girard came in. So I kind of had a mix of 3 different coaching staffs during my time there.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But yet, I mean, the fortunate thing is, like, Glenn and Yvette, 2 legendary coaches who've had tremendous success. How do you compare those two playing? I mean, you're one of the few people that could say you've played for both of them. Describe, the 2 of them, how they're alike and how they're different.
Yeah, Coach Moore was tough. I got in trouble a lot with Coach Moore. He made me run foul poles a lot just because I was like this stubborn little feisty kid. And I remember like he would always make me say, yes, sir. Like his yes, sir, no, ma'am. Yes, sir. From the South. I'm from Colorado. We didn't say that. So I was like, why do I gotta say yes, sir, yes, ma'am? So if there's one thing that I know that I did take for him, it's kind of that Southern hospitality of yes, sir, no, ma'am, like all of that. He also was like, put emphasis on like every little thing matters. I was kind of that utility kid. My freshman year, I remember with him. So I came in, I was recruited. I was a pitcher and a shortstop my whole life. And I went to LSU on my visit, and I chose them because like I watched him hit BP, and it was like bomb after bomb after bomb. Like I came into a program where we had Tara Asbill was an All-American shortstop. We had Shantae Freeman at first base, who was hitting bombs. We had Stephanie Hastings at second base, who was an All-American. We had Ashley Ducote at third base, who was dropping bombs and was an All-American. Then me and Brittany Sneed came in together as freshmen with Megan Stiggy. So there was only 3 of us that came in that class. And so trying to fight for a position out there with all of those guys, I was like, Lord, have mercy. So coaches put me everywhere. I was playing shortstop, obviously behind Tara, who was phenomenal. And she beat me out there. Then they tried to throw me at catcher because I had a good arm. And I was like, okay. But yet I was a pitcher, so I'm throwing bullpens. But we had 6 pitchers on the staff already. So I'm like, I'm not going to pitch. And then finally, they had me in the outfield. So I was like, oh my God, my head is spinning as a freshman. I came in as a righty hitter, and they turned me into a lefty. So I'm like, I'm batting right, I'm batting left, I'm throwing bullpens before practice, I'm catching, I'm outfield, I'm shortstop. So like in my fall meeting, I remember Coach Barnes was like, can you please just tell me what you want me to do? I don't know where to focus. He was like, all right, no more pitching. We're going to play the outfield, and you're going to hit left. And that's going to be our focus. And I was like, okay. So anyways, that was my journey to becoming an All-American outfielder.
SEC Player of the Year. What was that like? I mean, what was it like when you were named an All-American and SEC Player of the Year? You helped lead LSU to the Women's College World Series, I believe in 2001, right? Was it 2001 the season you guys got?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was Coach Girard's first year she came in.
Yeah.
Like, we had a phenomenal team. Still, we probably had one of the fastest outfields in the country with me, Dee Douglas, and Alicia Perry out there. Obviously, Brittany Sneed was going into being a 3-time All-American that year. It was kind of my mom, because I'd done the USA Junior Olympic team my freshman year. I'd been on the national teams, and, I just played. And my mom was like, my senior year, she's like, you're still not an All-American. Like, you've done all that, but you're not an All-American. I was like, dang, you're right. Like, you've done a lot. So I really just like changed my work ethic and got like super focused, and obviously getting to the World Series, like that lights a different fire, under your butt. So I just worked. I worked extra a lot. I was in the cage a lot by myself. I got extra reps on defense all the time. So it just kind of, my mom was kind of hit that reality check, like, okay, you smelling yourself a little bit, but you still ain't been this. So that's kind of what sparked me, just to kind of change that gear and like check off that one last bucket list thing of your career.
What was it like to be in Oklahoma City as a player? What was that moment like, that experience? Because I'm sure that's an experience you've been sharing with your players that you've coached over the years, and this current group in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing like it, right? To get it there and the crowd. And the year we went, it was just, we had some really good games. Like, we played Oklahoma. We went extra innings. It was packed. Everybody was on the, it was the berm there. They didn't even have all the bleachers all the way around. I think we went to like a 14-inning game with them, like going into midnight. It was crazy. We played Iowa. The last time Iowa was there, they played LSU. We knocked them out. And I remember I got the ball. It was 2 outs, runner at first. I think tying run. Ball hit to me in right field, and the girl tries to go from first to third, and I make the throw to third for that out of the game. And the coach is like, yes, that's why I yell at you all the time. Like, I practiced that throw a million times, and it's like, not till the World Series does it get light bulb come on. Like, that's why it's about inches, right? Coming up, fielding the ball clean and throwing somebody out. So a lot of great memories. And then after we played that Oklahoma game, then we played UCLA. Lost to UCLA out, ended up with third place.
Did you play Stanford in one of those games that
we
year?
We did, yeah. That's the only game that, back then, all the games weren't on TV, right?
Yeah.
There was a few. So we didn't get our Oklahoma game. That was phenomenal. And then the Iowa game that had the bang, they get the Stanford game where we lost. They actually played that. But watching it.
They aired it this summer. They aired
that. Yeah, so it was fun to watch, even though I struck out on the beautiful rise ball of Dana Sorensen. So, but it was fun. That brought back a lot of good memories. We had a group chat with our whole team, because our whole team is still pretty close-knit, checking on each other. We had a good little chat going during that game, so it was fun.
I'm not going to ask you why Coach Gerard decided to pitch to Mendoza late in the game. Well, I'll ask her the next time I get her on.
It's Brittany Sneed, man. Brittany Sneed.
That's true, right? It's right? You got to trust your ace.
Yeah, and back then we didn't know she was going to be a multi-year Olympian, 2-time Olympian, and everything. She was just back then. She still is a beast. She always was. And fun to play with. She was a teammate of mine on the national teams as well. So
was she really? I didn't know that. The 99, because you were on the junior national team in 99, is that right?
Yeah, I was on a junior Olympic team in 99. We went to Taipei, Taiwan, and played. Jenny Finch pitched for us there, and then I was on the 2001 national team, 2002 national team. 2003 was when I had to choose. And it's probably the only regret of my life, to choose to try out for the 2004 Olympic team or get a job. And obviously, I chose to go to work because I couldn't move back home, not knowing like how many things that could come, with being an Olympian. But that's my only regret of not going ahead and trying to be that Olympian that year. But yeah, it all worked out. I was supposed to be at GW that year, and I'm thankful for the relationships I built there.
That's right, because you got to play with a lot of those Olympians in 2004. A good majority. You mentioned Mendoza among others. I mean,
Bustos.
What? Yeah. Well, give me some of the players you played with and what you kind of, because I'm sure that made you a better player moving forward, just being around them as you're all kind of going the same goal.
100%. Like Crystal Bustos is probably one of the best teammates ever, who's probably misunderstood by her perception. Like that gentle giant. So playing with her on the national teams and then playing with her in the pro league in Akron, she was awesome. Stacey Newman was probably one of the best catchers I've ever seen play the game, and is agile and mobile and just killed it behind the plate. And then Natasha Watley, that's who is probably one of my best friends that I've met through softball and through the national team circuit. Taraya Flowers, who was Taraya Mims back in the day. So all of them. And then Jenny, obviously the face of the game right now, and who's genuinely probably the best person to represent softball for us. And what she shows out in the public and on TV and everything is who she really is as a person, and has always been that way, even back in the 90s.
How are you different from a player as a coach? If I put Trena Peel, the player, and Trena Prater, the coach, in the same room, how would that go?
Well, right, you evolve as a coach, right? Especially even now being an assistant versus when I was a young head coach back at Hampton, right? I was more of a firecracker, loud, and now I've evolved. Like, I'm a lot more laid back, obviously, being with Coach Gillespie. That's her coaching style. Trena Peel, the player, is a competitive. I would love to coach Trena Peel, the player, because of the tenacity and the fight, and obviously the athleticism. Like, I always try to recruit those type of 5-tool kids, or kids like I played with at LSU that have those type of skills, because I was blessed. Like all 4 years, like we had phenomenal. We were like top 5 in the country. If we dropped out of top 5, it was like, what the heck? And we were like a second-year program coming back. So yeah, so Trena the player, Trena the coach, we would have a really good love-hate relationship at times, because Trena Peel would push the envelope, and then Coach Prater is gonna push you right back to make sure you could be the best you could be.
We're speaking with Trena Prater here on In the Circle. We had Tyra Perry on the show a few months back, and we talked about the diversity, because obviously she's a part of that. The Big Ten has been very upfront about that. That's obviously been a huge topic in our society and today.
Yep.
But I'm curious from a softball standpoint, as somebody who's grown into this game, you've played in it, you've coached in it. Mm-hmm. How do we get better in diversity in the sport of softball? Do you think it is getting better? You've paid your dues to get where you're at. Do you think that are we heading in the right direction, or is there still a lot of room for improvement? Where are we when it comes to getting more minorities involved in the sport of softball?
Yeah, and there's always room for growth. That's one thing. Tyra, our group calls her the GOAT, right? She's kind of one of my biggest role models, and always has been an advocate for me in coaching, and even at LSU, being a supporter. Obviously, our alumni group is very tight, but she is, right, who a lot of us young Black coaches strive to meet her excellence. She's always been successful everywhere that she's been. And, she was a part of me getting the head coaching job at Buffalo as well, and making that connection with that athletic department when I left Hampton. So the question is diversity in the sport. It's going to keep growing. I see a lot of young Black women being assistant coaches right now, and that's what it takes. It's just an opportunity to get your foot in the door and continue to grow. And I think in time, right, everything will change and opportunities will continue to present themselves. So yeah, I think the different things, NFCA is creating different platforms for diversity and for coaches to network and to growth and opportunities. So that's what it's really all about.
And this is across the board in the NCAA. It's not just a softball thing. I mean, this has been well talked about in football and certainly in other sports in NCAA there. Did you, when you were growing up, did you have those opportunities? Did you find yourself like, oh man, I'm not getting a fair shake here? Take me through it now, when you went through it growing in, and now that you're a part of it, you're seeing all over the place the differences that you've seen over the years.
Yeah, I would say nothing ever jumped out at me. I would say I was always the only Black player on my team until I went to college. And that's one reason I chose LSU, because that was the first time I was going to get to play with another Black player. And that was Dee Douglas at the time, and Taryn Perry, Tyra's little sister.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I ever played with somebody who looked like me. Not that it mattered coming up. I didn't think of it as anything until it was like the opportunity to do it. And it was kind of like, hey, that's cool. Like somebody's gonna know about my hair. Like somebody's gonna know about this or that. I can talk to you about this, and I can't say that. So it never was like a big deal, but it was a big deal to play with somebody that looked like you. And as far as coaching and kind of coming up, I've never really felt any discrimination that I, in any level of where I've been. And I've been a lot of places. I think everywhere I've been, people have been supportive. People have been open-minded. I've been in a lot of places. I've been the first at a lot of places. I think I'm the first paid Black coach here at Iowa. So I'm just thankful for opportunities. And, it's all about who you know and networking, and sometimes being at the right place at the right time. And I think I've been fortunate enough throughout my career to have positive experiences.
It feels too like there's more opportunities for players to get those opportunities, because it's an expensive sport. I mean, it's got to commit to the sport, but I feel like there's more opportunities for players now than there was maybe when you were a player, right? Because I mean, I've spoken even to like it's not even a diversity issue, because I remember when I spoke to Jessica Mendoza on the show, she talked about her hitting coach was a baseball guy. Mm-hmm. Now you have specific softball instructors all over the world, and you got more travel ball teams than ever. So there seems to be more opportunities and more awareness. There's more, obviously, interest in the game. The game is exposed more on television now. So I would imagine there's more doors than there were maybe when you were growing up.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many more resources, right? The internet in itself is a resource that we didn't have back then. And a lot of former players are becoming
Yeah.
those coaches, right? Like I said, I was always coached by men and not men's fast pitch guys, like baseball guys, right? So that's who molded me into being kind of the pit bull that I was, right? Because the men are a little bit more aggressive, stereotypically. And like I said, that's like Coach Gerard was my first female coach, right? And she was tough as nails. So, yeah.
Last question for you. What's going to be the keys once you get back in the spring? Obviously, there's still so many things to sort out, but once you get on the field and the season starts, what's going to be the keys for your team to continue that success you were having in 2020 and moving that forward into 2021 and beyond?
Right. It's pretty much stay healthy, right? Make good decisions off the field so we can put our team in the best situation to compete. That's what we keep telling them. The game is going to take care of itself, right? We continue to train hard, do the little things, but the biggest thing in the COVID year is staying healthy. Can we all stay on the field together? Can we put our best 9 out there consistently and fight for Iowa? That's what it's really about.
That's assistant coach Trena Prater for coach at Iowa, joining us in the circle. Coach, it's good to catch up with you. You look good. It's great to talk to you, talk some
Good to see
softball.
you.
Hope everything's going well. Like I said, we wish you well and Coach Gillespie there at Iowa.
Yes. Thanks. Thanks, Elo. Thanks for having me. Go Hawks.